Coming up on Arirang News, the leaders of South Korea and the U.S. will have their first face-to-face summit next month. That's scheduled for May 21st at the White House. And top of the agenda will be the alliance and denuclearization. The health authorities decide to extend South Korea's distancing rules as they are, with new COVID-19 cases still in the 600s. But with the vaccine campaign underway, they could be eased by July. And South Korea's economy continues to recover. Industrial production up by almost 1% in March, and retail sales rising by the most in 7 months. It's 5:00 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. The schedule for the first in-person summit between the leaders of South Korea and the U.S. has been announced. They'll be meeting in Washington on May 21st. Their talks are expected to focus mainly on the two countries' alliance and the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Hong Yu reports.
President Moon Jae-in will meet U.S. President Joe Biden on May 21st at the White House. This will be the first face-to-face summit between the two leaders. The Blue House said Friday that holding an actual summit amid the COVID-19 pandemic shows the importance of the alliance between the two countries.
Through this meeting, we hope that the two leaders will reaffirm the solidarity of the Korea-U.S. alliance and expand and develop a comprehensive and reciprocal partnership based on friendship between the two leaders and two countries' people.
The White House also issued a statement saying that Moon's visit will highlight the ironclad alliance and that Biden is looking forward to working with Moon to further strengthen the alliance and expand cooperation. Some of the topics to be discussed during the summit include practical cooperation in sectors such as trade and the economy, as well as cooperation in dealing with global challenges such as climate change and COVID-19. The senior presidential secretary for public communication added that the two leaders will also discuss close cooperation to progress toward complete denuclearization and permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula. President Moon has said Tuesday that he hopes the summit serves as an opportunity to coordinate and to sort out the direction of their policy toward North Korea. Biden had said on Wednesday during his first speech to Congress that the U.S. will be working closely with its allies to address the threats posed by Iran and North Korea's nuclear programs through diplomacy and stern deterrence. Also possibly on the agenda is the supply of COVID-19 vaccines, as there are some sources saying they could discuss designating South Korea as the hub for Asia's COVID-19 vaccine production. In regards to Quad alliance of the U.S., Australia, India, and Japan, an official from the Blue House said that the Quad has not been decided as an agenda, but South Korea is willing to cooperate if it contributes to regional and global peace. The details of the agenda and President Moon's schedule in Washington are still being worked on. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
And the top military officers of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan held talks in Hawaii on Thursday, face-to-face, for the first time in a year and a half, agreeing to strengthen their cooperation amid concerns over North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, JCS Chairman General Won In-chul met with his U.S. counterpart, General Mark Milley, and Japan's General Koji Yamazaki. They reportedly discussed the importance of promoting a rules-based international order in the Pacific region. General Won said trilateral cooperation is crucial for peace and security on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia. General Milley reaffirmed that the U.S. remains prepared to provide extended deterrence guaranteed by the full spectrum of U.S. military capabilities. General Yamazaki also stressed the importance of trilateral cooperation for the implementation of UN Security Council resolutions. President Moon Jae-in has been given his second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine developed by AstraZeneca. Like his first one, he got a health checkup this morning beforehand. Moon got his first dose on March 23rd in accordance with the health authorities' guidelines on essential foreign travel, since President Moon has been invited to the G7 summit in the UK in June. His second shot was given early because he's also going to Washington in late May for his summit with President Biden. The AstraZeneca vaccine requires a time frame of 8 to 12 weeks, but the KDCA permits a 4-week time frame in case of urgent overseas travel. Dozens of people have been killed in a stampede at a religious gathering in northern Israel. Reports say up to 38 people were killed on Thursday, and Israel's main rescue service says at least 100 people were injured at the festival attended by tens of thousands of Jewish pilgrims. This was the first religious event of its kind held legally since Israel lifted almost all of its distancing measures. Key indicators continue to show the South Korean economy recovering from the pandemic. In March, overall industrial output rose for the second month in a row, and retail sales rose by the most in 7 months. Kim Jae-hee has the details.
South Korea's overall industrial production continued its upward trend for the second consecutive month in March, thanks to increased production in the service sector. According to Statistics Korea on Friday, the overall industrial output was up 0.8% in March compared to the previous month. Industrial production declined by 0.5% in January, then rebounded 2.1% in February, before increasing for the second time last month. This was mainly due to strong production in the service sector, which offset dwindling production in both mining and manufacturing. Production in the service industry was up 1.2% on month, rising for a second month in a row and marking the largest gain since June 2020.
The sluggishness we've seen in the service industry has eased a lot with relaxed social distancing and increased activity during the warmer weather. Production in the service industry increasing for 2 straight months contributed to growth in overall production.
Retail sales, a measure of consumption, also increased by the largest margin in 7 months, signaling a stronger recovery. It was up 2.3% compared to the previous month, thanks to a rise in sales of clothing and cosmetics. But one expert notes it's uncertain whether this rising trend will continue.
Consumption tends to increase in March due to seasonal factors, and the current recovery in consumption is due to partial improvements from increased demand for semi-durable products like clothing and cosmetics. It's uncertain whether this growth trend in consumption will continue.
He added uncertainty remains due to various factors, such as the spread of COVID-19 variants and speed of vaccine rollouts. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
Another record-breaking IPO ahead in the Korean market. The company SKIE Technology, which makes materials for batteries, has just drawn over 80 trillion won in deposits from investors hoping to get the shares when it hits the Kospi next month. That's around $73 billion. The previous record was set last month by SK Bioscience, which got around $56 billion. Many would-be investors, though, won't be getting a single share because the competition rate is 288 to 1. SKIE Technology has set its IPO price at 105,000 won for its debut on May 11th. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, Global Strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, good afternoon. Thank you for coming on.
Good afternoon.
Let's start with the markets. Stocks in New York were up on Thursday on stronger than expected earnings and more spending plans from the Biden administration. S&P at a new high above 4,200 points. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, if you look at the U.S. market, Dow closed up about 0.7% and S&P 500 advanced about 0.7% as well. And if you look at the NASDAQ, it was slightly up by about 0.2%. If you look at the earnings numbers coming out from most of these companies, it looks very strong. And all in all, it seems that the economy is recovering, and generally the GDP numbers are on the right track. Liquidity conditions are also reasonably okay. However, there's a bit of concern about the interest rate rise. And if you look at the 10-year government bond rate, it has slightly increased to about 1.6%. If you look at the earnings numbers coming from the Amazon and various tech-heavy companies, most of these numbers are coming in much stronger than expected, and the earnings growth seems to be very strong. However, though, If you look at the overall price movement, NASDAQ was up only by 0.22%. I think that people are concerned about what's happening to the liquidity conditions. There's a possibility of tapering concern in the future, and we need to watch out how aggressive these numbers are going to look like in terms of the unemployment numbers as well as economic growth numbers.
Well, here in Korea, stocks today were down by a fair bit. Foreigners, institutions were net sellers again today, and it seems there's concern about Korea next week set to allow short selling again, which has been banned for the past year. Tell us about the local market.
Yes, it seems that the markets continue to show some declining trend overall. As you said, there's a concern about the short selling starting to happen again. And also there has been a lot of liquidity going into the IPOs, SKIET, and it's expected, it seems to show over 70 trillion won worth of money were actually injected into IPO of this stock. All in all, liquidity is ample. However, though, there's a concern about this short selling ban removed in the future, which is starting on May 3rd. And question mark is that how much of the foreigners are going to net sell through the short selling, as it's been, they were not able to do short selling for more than a year. And this seems to be the one cases where there's a lot of stocks that are overshoot, particularly in the bio sector.
Right, and zooming out for a minute, speaking of foreign investors, the exchange rate has come down quite a bit over the past month or so. Right now, the Korean won is about 11.10 to the dollar, which is the lowest it's been since February. What's causing the won to gain here, or as it were, the dollar to weaken?
Right. If you look at the overall U.S. market, if you look at the U.S. economic conditions, numbers are coming in much stronger than expected in general. Clearly, we have seen massive inflow of the foreigners. Looking at, if you look at the economic numbers, it's coming in much stronger than expected, and also the unemployment numbers are coming in much better than expected as well. So this is causing the U.S. dollar to. It should have caused the U.S. dollar to appreciate, but in a recent trend, it has depreciated slightly. I think that going forward, most likely the U.S. dollar would expect it to rise and appreciate in the future. And if you look at Korean won as well, if you look at, in general, export numbers of Korea, it's continued to show a very strong number on a net basis. And we expect that number to continue, which means that the overall Korean won level is not going to vary that much. It's going to be probably trading in a range bound anywhere between 1100 to 1130. That seems to be the current cases. And this is the reason why the foreign investors are not really doing much in terms of the Korean equity market. Foreigners have been a major net seller in the past, but now it's pretty much in a flat in terms of the recent several months or so.
Right, and speaking of positive signs for the future, the Korean economy continues to show signs of recovery. The latest report from Statistics Korea shows production and consumption both up last month overall. Tell us a bit more about what's happening in the economy.
Yes, the numbers are coming in very nicely. If you look at the overall consumption numbers, it is up, the retail sales up about 10.9% year on year in March. This is the strongest growth that we've seen since the 2011 January, and it has revised up from the 8.3% gain in the previous month. On a monthly basis, retail sales rose by 2.3% in March, following 0.8% drop in the previous month. And also, if you look at the industrial output numbers, it is coming in slightly weaker. It fell by about 0.8% from a month ago on a sluggish production of the vehicles and machinery equipment amid the global shortage of the automotive chips. But it did gain a year earlier versus a year earlier. It gained by about 4.7%. So all in all, we are seeing the overall Korean economy is doing much better than expected, as it is skewed towards the export much more so than any other countries. In the future, we do expect Korea to continue to show strong numbers in terms of the economic growth because of the export numbers going to be continue to be well, particularly in the chip sector as well as the automobile sector.
Got it. All right, Mr. Yu, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for sharing your insights. And of course, have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
And the latest on the coronavirus situation in South Korea. The country is deciding to stick with its current social distancing rules for another 3 weeks. That means there'll still be a ban on gatherings of 5 or more people. But the authorities say the rules could be eased by midsummer if the vaccine campaign succeeds in slowing the spread. Our Han Sung-woo has the latest.
South Korea reported 661 new COVID-19 cases on Friday, the second day in a row that the figure stayed in the 600s. All but 19 of those cases were locally transmitted, with over 380 coming from Seoul and the surrounding area. Outside the capital area, Ulsan accounted for 60 new cases after a cluster infection at a bar in the city. Smaller clusters across Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province added to Friday's tally, while an outbreak at a nursing home for the elderly in Daejeon resulted in 18 new patients. Despite warnings of strengthened prevention measures should the daily average hit the 800s, the Central Disaster Management Headquarters said better days lie ahead.
If there are fewer than 1,000 cases a day by late June and more senior citizens get vaccinated, the risk of COVID-19 will further decrease. Once this goal is achieved, we will restructure the distancing measures in July and ease guidelines like the ban on private meetings and restricted operating hours.
The restructured system features not 5 but 4 tiers of social distancing, with level 4 being the strictest. Under level 2 of the revamped system, up to 8 people will be allowed for private gatherings, and up to 4 people will be allowed at level 3. The government also plans to relax regulations at nursing homes and gradually allow face-to-face visits. But for now, Korea has decided to extend the social distancing measures currently in place and the ban on private gatherings of 5 or more people by another 3 weeks. Restaurants and cafes in the capital area, like before, are to close at 10 p.m. However, the ban on civil servants dining together and holding gatherings will end on Sunday. The other special measures for the public sector, encouraging working from home and flexible business hours, will continue until May 9th.
Along with the number of confirmed cases, sufficient numbers of hospital beds, thanks to the expansion of medical capacity and preemptive testing, were taken into account.
South Korea's total number of COVID-19 cases has now surpassed 122,000. The virus has claimed 3 more lives, raising the national death toll to 1,828. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
And with people spending more time at home in the pandemic, many of them have been decluttering their homes, selling their old clothes, furniture, and devices to other people through popular apps. They're also using apps to find people in their neighborhood to spend time with and beat the corona blues. Our Soin Kyung has more.
Anything can be sold at online secondhand markets, from furniture and clothing to baby items like an elephant-shaped pillow. Buyers and sellers often meet at subway stations in their neighborhoods.
The most attractive part of this platform is that you can trade goods with your neighbors. In this way, you can get to check the quality of the products in person and buy things at affordable prices.
One of the leading online secondhand market platforms in South Korea saw its monthly active users more than double in just a year, and claims that about 1 in 5 Koreans use this app at least once a month. The company's platform allows users to share and directly trade used goods in their neighborhoods.
This is a win-win situation both for buyers and sellers. The second-hand market fulfills people's desires to keep consuming different types of products at affordable prices. and sellers can dispose of unnecessary items and even get paid for them.
Recently, a new trend has been emerging on the company's online platform. People in the same neighborhood trade their time through a variety of activities, including chatting over a cup of coffee or doing sports together like hiking up a mountain. A woman named Younga posted on the platform looking for a hiking buddy.
일단 친구 중에 같은 취미를 가진 친구가 없고 동네는 가까우니까 혹시나 관심사가 맞는 친구를 만나면 바로 연락을 해서 또 제가 가까운 산을 갈 수 있잖아요. 좋아하는 산을 갈 수도 있고 그래서 맘맞는 친구를 만났을 때 더 재밌고 뭔가 아무것도 모르는 친구랑 가는 것보다는 아무를 모르는 사이여도 재밌더라고요.
Even though it was our first encounter, we had an everyday conversation while climbing the mountain. With social distancing measures making it hard to meet friends, online encounters like this one are becoming more common. Experts say there are psychological reasons behind this.
Humans are social animals, and it is natural for people to look for friends. Ironically, at the same time, people sometimes feel more comfortable sharing their difficulties or inner thoughts with strangers.
However, experts point out that people should take safety precautions when meeting people through online platforms.
Carrot has been using sophisticated systems, including AI technologies, to detect improper dialogue as our platform is expanding from the exchanging items to a place where people gather offline.
Whatever the potential risk, it appears that online second-hand markets will continue to boom in Korea for some time being. 서은경, Arirang News.
South Korea's population is aging rapidly. In about 20 years, it's expected to be the oldest country in the OECD, with almost 40% of people above retirement age. So some young people have been putting their heads together to help Korea's seniors make extra income to support themselves. Paeun-ji reports.
Chicken, carrots, and beet are laid out on the table for cooking. What's different about this business is that it only hires women aged 60 or older. Many of them either already retired or have spent most of their lives taking care of their family at home. This small business founded by a college student creates jobs for women in their 60s and 70s by hiring them to make dog treats. The CEO, a college senior, says growing up with her grandmother, she always had an interest in jobs for seniors.
I have zero experience in cooking, but they have almost 50 years of cooking experience. So their amazing grocery shopping and cooking skills are really helpful in creating these products.
One of the workers in her 60s says she retired from work when she was 55, but was looking for a job to stay active after retirement.
I'm sure there are a lot of jobs out there for seniors. There are some jobs that seniors can do as well as young people when they're given the opportunity.
Another business run by college students helps elderly people who collect cardboard and other paper waste for a living by attaching advertisements onto their handcarts. Through the ads, each person receives about $63 a month. This 80-year-old man has been doing this for 5 years now.
It's great that we get additional benefits from the ads. People from the places we get the cardboard from ask us about the products on the ad, so I guess this really works.
Since the business opened 5 years ago, a total of about 400 elderly people have benefited from the service, and currently 29 companies are advertising on the carts. The students are also working on making the handcarts lighter and safer.
The original handcarts weighed almost 80 kilograms, so we brought it down to 40, using different materials. We're now focusing on making them safer, like attaching reflective tape on the front so that it's safer at night.
Those aged 65 or older made up 16.6% of South Korea's population in 2021, an increase from about 11% 10 years ago. The OECD projects that by 2048, this figure will reach 37.4%, making South Korea the oldest country in the OECD. 배은지, Arirang News.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.